Serious.
I don't get this chair much. So. We'll call the meeting to order. Our meeting of the Dudley Community College Board of Trustees meeting of June 25th, 6 p.m. We'll first stand if everybody would please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We always like to read our college mission at the beginning of all of our meetings. The Dodge City Community College will provide opportunities for high-quality learning and will enhance community and personal development in a student-centered environment. I'd like to take a brief opportunity to welcome some guests that we have tonight. Dave Campbell with the Pratt Community College, Jeff Hoffman with the Pratt Community College, Larry Kleeman with Ransom Financial, Kevin Cohen with Gilmore and Bell, and Mary Trent. If there's any other guests that would like to recognize themselves. Otherwise, this is always the opportunity that we allow for public comment at the meeting. If anybody has any comments, input, or feedback for the College Board, we'd welcome you to come to the mic. Please state your name and address when you come forward. Seeing none, we'll move on into our agenda. First thing on the agenda is the approval of our minutes, the special board meeting of May 28th, the regular board meeting of the evening of May 28th, and the joint city-county USD 443 Community College joint meeting on June 17th. Everybody's got those in their packets, had a chance to review them. Any motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you, Maya. Sorry, we'll try not to cut you off. And then moving on to completion or additions of our agenda, there is no listed additions or deletions. No additions. There is a revision to the consent agenda, the removal of personnel item number 4. The resignation acceptance is not on there any longer, correct?
Correct.
Are there any other additions, deletions, or changes to the agenda? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion for the approval of our agenda.
I would move to approve the agenda.
So moved by Trustee Malone.
Second.
Second, Trustee Hampton. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Mike. Reports to the board. We'll start with our trustees' reports. Trustee Reconvene.
I have nothing to report to.
Kathy, any report for us?
I do. I went to our...
You look like you were digging. Sorry, I was trying to do this.
I am. I'm just so excited that I've got something to report. Okay, well, first of all, I'll let you talk about the Shrine Bowl. I know all of that. But I'm going to talk about our Kansas Association of Community College Trustees and the meeting we went to. And I got to meet our new executive director, and I was very, very impressed with Heather Morgan. Very knowledgeable, a lot of applications. She rose to the top, so I was very, very impressed with her. Allie gave us an update on the legislation that's going on and lots of reviews, what's happening. There's going to be a rural task force that's out in this area, and they ask that as many of us that can attend anything on it. They'll be meeting around all of Kansas asking about community colleges and stuff. And as a rural division, we need to express some of our concerns and what's going on. Then another concern that they're talking about is the Medicaid expansion. So they said to keep alert on all of that. So, and then I asked Dr. Forgey to talk a little bit about the tiered levels on funding. So it was a really, really good meeting.
Thank you. Maya, would you like to give your report?
I don't have a report at this time.
Thank you. Trustee Malone.
I do have a question of Trustee Ramsar. What type of legislation is the KACCT?
They were looking at Senate Bill 155 and a House bill, and I can't remember what House bill
We're trying to expand 155 to get some of the high school, like English and things like that. They're trying to expand. 155 is workforce, and so they're trying to expand it and see what else.
Okay. Thank you.
Trustee Hampton.
Yes, I am particularly excited that we had a wonderful write-up about DCCC STEM camp. And I know particularly that Kathy and I have both been concerned about where the United States stands in the STEM level in the world. We had been way behind. We've caught up some, but this is absolutely what we need to be doing. And I'm so pleased, and thank you, Andrea and Scott, for that nice story. It's really, really a good thing for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Percy. Trustee Harshberger is indisposed this evening, I think unfortunately, or due to the season for him. So I don't have any other new things to report right now. If I think of something, I'll jump in after Dr. Nolte. But otherwise, Dr. Nolte.
Thank you, Chairman. With the gavel. The thing I'd love to talk a little bit about, first of all, is the Shrine Bowl. That went extremely well. Hopefully we'll get that back in a couple of years. We had the band and the cheerleaders here, and I think it went relatively well. And I know Bev and her staff and others were involved in it, and then we had the game that Saturday night. I think the great thing also is one of the best players at the Shrine Bowl. He's going to play for us. And so that's a pretty neat, and he's in Kansas. Where's he from?
Valley Center.
Valley Center. And so that's going to be a really neat thing. So we've got a lot going on. The summer's been pretty busy. If you get a chance on Thursday night, go by and see we've got 16 volleyball teams playing. And they're from Dodge City and Meade and, Jetmore and Spearville, and I mean it's fun to watch, and it's exciting, and the stands are full. The parents come and see it, and so it's a neat opportunity. And if you get a chance, I know Chris is pretty excited about the entryway to the Student Activity Center. It's absolutely gorgeous. I guess that's Harshberger Hall.
Harshberger family.
And it's really, really well done. It's really well orchestrated. So it looks really, really good. And there's just some really good things going on. I know Greg and Jake and Chris are really involved in the foundation. We got lots of good things happening. I know y'all are working on the Fine Arts building also. And then we've got some opportunities for some other things that are going on. So it's happening. And then you've got students, you got kids all around this place doing their thing. So it's a good time of year. It really is. And we're working on budget too, by the way. So we are busy. Right? Yes, we are.
Did you say that tournament was this weekend?
Which one?
The tournament? Did you say, or is it
It's
the volleyball?
Go ahead.
It's a summer league.
Oh.
They're playing every Thursday during the month of June. They've played every Thursday during the month of June, and they have both JV and varsity teams coming into play. You've got teams from as far away as Savannah, and of course Dodge City has a couple teams in it, but you have a good group of local young ladies coming into play.
Are they all in our activity center?
Yes.
I just think that's so wonderful, and I want to make another statement about how pleased I am that we have that facility. We couldn't have done that before, and we needed to do that for our community and our area.
And we're working on the old gym, and working on, as well as the sign, as well as you call it the courtesy card, which is going to help students and parents to, because sometimes parents can't get to the residence halls and things like that, so we're going to have a courtesy card to take students around. And so there's good opportunities here that we're doing. But it's fun to see the activity in the summertime, and it gives us a little time to breathe, but it also is a good time to see all the students coming in and welcoming them here.
We have interns that they were talking about staying in our residence hall from the meat packing plants and.
Right. We have
several interns that stay this summer from area businesses, and it's gone real well. We started doing that about 7 years ago, and they're usually university students that are working internships in the area, KU Pharmacy, Cargill, National Beef, places like that.
And then we also have the football players moving in this weekend. So we have that going on, as well as, a shout out to Jane and Christy as far as we have got some really good applicants. It's amazing. And they let me, believe this or not, they let me meet the faculty while we're interviewing them. So they come in, and I'm very impressed with the caliber of faculty we're bringing in. And it's pretty exciting. I mean, we got one, I guess, this week or maybe last week that taught both history and government and was dual purposed. And so we've got some really excited about being here, and wrote a nice note to us. And, but we've got some chemistry. We found a chemistry instructor. We have, just a FYI, we have over 30 interviewing for our band position, which is pretty good. So we've got things happening.
Have we started the construction on the gym over there, the old gym?
No. Waiting for next year.
Funds to be collected.
We have started on the renovation of the band room, however.
We will discuss that in a few minutes.
Okay. Don't want to spoil it.
Don't want to spoil this.
Wait till you see his presentation.
Just have a soundtrack, because I feel like it needs one right now.
It does.
You'll want to move where you can see.
Yeah, well, so everybody else can too. Okay, thank you, Dr. Dr. Holwerda, would you like to present on the Lineman program at Pratt Community College?
Excuse me?
On the Lineman program?
I'm sorry, Brian, I was distracted.
I'm totally going to blame it on him.
My fault.
It's nice for you guys to coordinate the colors.
No, we
tried,
to.
yeah.
Oh yeah, we did.
We did,
Yeah,
I know.
We call, we just live up the street from each other, so we can just wave the shirt out. So very excited to talk about our progress with the Lineman program, our partnership with Pratt Community College. Thank you, Dr. Presley, for introducing our guests. We have Jeff Hoffman, who's in his second year, I believe, at Pratt, and then Dave Campbell, who's in his 20th year. Yeah. So we have a veteran and a soon-to-be veteran who have been here today assisting us in assessing our facilities and working with Dean Osmus to inventory our materials and equipment and supplies. And I understand we're in pretty good shape in that way. We also had a phone conference last Friday with Dr. Fitzpatrick, who's the academic vice president of Pratt, their CFO. Dr. Forgey and Ryan and I met to talk about the memorandum of understanding to work out the details of the teach out and a longer term partnership there. And we'll be continuing that conversation in a week or two ahead. And so I don't know if you had questions for Dave or for Jeff, or if you'd just like to welcome them and thank them. I've been very grateful for their time today and in the past few weeks working to identify our students and their placement into the curriculum.
And thank you.
And we're very proud of your program. I think y'all are #1 in the state, maybe in the country, so that's pretty good.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
We want to thank you, gentlemen, for being here. I don't have other questions, but I appreciate the collegiality and, most importantly, that this is what community colleges are in Kansas, that we're not here to compete with each other, but we're working together.
Career for the students.
How many students will we have in this teach-out program? From here?
Right now in the teach-out program, there's 19 students that we're following up on to finish with.
Okay.
And we hope to run about an average of 20 students then every year in the program. We appreciate very much the hospitality that we were shown today. We appreciate that very much. Very nice day. And your equipment is very good shape. Everything's there in place. We just need to add a curriculum, a teacher, and some students, and be perfect.
Well, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, Dr. Forgey, this long-awaited presentation about the proposed budget for 2019-2020. So
lead the way.
I like to stand when I present talks, but I don't know that I can see the screen. We'll get started with the budget. This will be a little bit different from probably what you're used to. Thank you. And Trustee Corbelette?
Yeah.
If you want to come and get a personal presentation, I'll be glad to do that for you.
Get a signed copy.
Signed copy,
I
yes.
will be in your office, Dr.
All right.
Forgey.
Okay, all right. All right, so this is our proposed budget. I told you I like to do things a little bit different. Does anybody know who that was?
Oh, it's Jeremy's phone.
Anybody know who that singer was? Really? What? Willie Nelson. We get prizes, so you better pay attention. That was Willie Nelson. A lot of the presentations that you see on finance, even state of the college, even sometimes in-service training, that can be pretty boring. And so I, in my presentations, try to liven them up a little bit and do things a little bit different. The budget this year, this is kind of an executive summary. It continued to provide for growth in service through our commitment to the mission and goals of the institution. And it's based on the following assumptions. And this first one is a big one right here. It's based on flat enrollment. Now, we hope enrollment goes better than we did last year, but I always kind of like to take a conservative approach and base my budget on like it is flat, unless we know that things are just going to really deteriorate. Then we may consider a 5% decrease. But so far, we're considering a flat enrollment for this year's budget. A 3% increase for faculty and staff. We hope to be able to do that. I've kind of got that built in so far. 3% increase in assessed valuation. We'll get to that in a little bit. As I looked at the history of the assessed valuations and how much they increased each year, it looked like it was going to be about 3%. And when I got the valuation about a week ago, it came in at 2.99. So it was pretty close. For our faculty and staff, no increase in our health benefits or insurance premiums, so they'll like that. We had a meeting with our insurance provider and health insurance provider, and we're real good on that. We are well funded. We'll have a net reduction of 2 staff, and there's no change in the net number of faculty. We'll have a net increase in tuition and fees of $2. The board's already passed that. An increase in state aid in the amount of about $44,162. This is something new from what I understand, that you normally don't get an increase in state aid. We'll talk about that a little bit later. So the budgets for the general and post-secondary are expected to increase about 2.5%. That's about the rate of inflation. Other funds will increase. Capital outlay fund, I hope to increase that up by almost $375,000. The auxiliary enterprise, our food services, bookstore, and residential life will increase by about $358,000. A lot of that's due to the Jackson Hall refinance and the $185,000 principal payment that we're going to start making. So when we did our budget a little bit different this year, we sent out the request and I asked everybody to kind of fill out what they needed, and kind of went from a zero-based budgeting concept. And so people would come into my office and they might ask for something, and I would just look at them and nod my head. But my inside voice was saying this. That was my inside voice. But I was shaking my head. Y'all see what we can do. Anybody know where that movie clip was from?
German.
Who said that first? Mike said that first. All right.
So our first table here was talk about the different funds we have. And these are the major funds. I didn't put all the different funds we have up here, but these are the major ones. We've got the general fund, obviously. These two right here, general fund and the post-secretary fund, the two largest ones. They're going to go up, like I said, about 2.5%. Then we've got your auxiliary enterprises. That's going to go up. We talked about that. Capital outlay, we hope for that one to go up. And the revenue bonds. I won't talk about too much of that because it's kind of, the revenue bonds and capital outlay are kind of go hand in hand, but we'll talk about a few of these. First, the general fund and post-secondary fund. They make up about 80% of our college budget. And here's a summary of the revenues associated with those funds. We've got our tuition and fees. That's going to go up about $400,000. Now, a lot of that we budgeted based on what we might think Arizona might do. Did you say something, Trustee Corbett? Okay.
Yes. No, I did not.
Okay, I'm sorry.
It's my dog barking.
Your dog. Did your dog have a question? State support, we talked about that. That's going to go up a little bit. Our local support includes a lot of our property taxes and other items there. Our other sources, and you notice this big decrease here. That is because of last year we had budget in there $270,000 for the property that was sold. Okay, so that's why the other sources went down so much. Okay. So if we look at the revenues by source, our local support is about 55%, tuition and fees 22%, and our state support 13%. What would be great is like if you had like a three-legged stool, usually you like it to be about equal. But in our case, local support we depend on pretty heavily. If anybody has any questions, at any time, stop me, okay? So, yes, sir.
Well, pie charts just don't do much for me.
Okay.
Is there a way that on transfers, other revenues, and charges for services, you could break that down into a sheet that would list that out as where are the transfers coming from and what's the other revenue, for example?
Well, for other revenue, for example, would be interest earned, grants. I'm trying to think of some of the other items. Educan funds. There are a lot of different items in that particular category. There's so many of them that we don't want to break them down. The transfers are the mandatory transfers that we transfer from the general fund to the technical fund for support, and then they transfer part of that back for administrative support from the technical fund back to the general fund. We also have transfers to the scholarship fund. So those are the three categories kind of there. Some of those are inter-fund transfers and then funds transferred out to the scholarship fund.
But it's already in the budget, so just transferring it from this page to this page doesn't make an increase. It may make an increase. It doesn't make an increase in the whole budget. Well, it makes an increase in.
If you transfer, and probably most of this is going to be your scholarship, you're going to transfer that from Fund 1, which is your general fund, over to Fund 58, which is your scholarship fund. These are incidental fees for the most part.
But it's still the dollar is being transferred. The dollar is in the budget anyway. By transferring it, that dollar doesn't increase the amount of the dollar.
It's kind of the way that the budget's set up. I know what you're saying. You transfer it here and here, and you transfer it. A better way to look at that, if you see it on the monthly report I present, and you'll see on there transfer of fees and other transfers. So you have a revenue item up here in the transfer of fees. And then down in the expenditure side, you have a transfer of the vocational fund. And so that's kind of where, it's just the way the system kind of set up. I don't really have better to explain it. I could break that down for you to show you the.
Well, that's what I
the
kind of like to see is, you know, if I transfer $1 from my left pocket to my right pocket, I still got the same dollar. You know, and so I can't increase my budget by saying, well, I've now got that dollar in my right pocket, so now it's worth 3% more.
Well, like I said, we're counting, some of this is revenues, but on the expenditure side, which we'll see, you'll see transfers on the expenditure side. So you've got, yeah, kind of like you say, you've got revenues on one side, expenditures on the side. So you got transfers on two. I mean, you could net it out, and this is kind of what this is doing, but it's easier to see on a spreadsheet. If I could show you the detail, I'll get you the detail.
Okay, and then that other one I was interested in was charges for services. What services do we charge for? How much are they?
This is
I'd like some more detail.
This is the health reimbursement that we do and the college kind of maintains.
Okay.
And we get reimbursed for that, and then it's kind of a flow through.
Yes.
So that's kind of what that's for.
Okay.
Phil?
Kind of, sort of, yeah. It's the health, our own health insurance program that we run here. So.
But it's still our money.
It's still our, well.
And it doesn't, well, it's our money because it comes in as
goes
health
out.
insurance and it goes out.
Yeah.
But it doesn't, to me, it doesn't seem like it ought to increase by 2.33% just because we transferred it from one account to another account. But anyway.
This is a percent of revenues, not an increase.
No, yeah, it's not an increase. This is just a percentage of revenue.
Yeah, right.
Right. So it's about, I don't think that's going to, I don't think I increased it any. I think I kept that the same as we did last year.
Yeah, okay, that's the same.
Now, what we did have an increase in local support and a little bit of an increase in state support and a little bit of an increase in tuition fees officers.
When we approved the thing the other night at the community meeting, was there any way to tell how much revenue we lost at that by taking those properties off the tax roll?
The properties weren't taken off the tax
There was
roll.
no tax
They're not taken
decrease
off.
off the current
Any
property
improvements
tax.
simply don't go on the tax rolls.
The
at
improvements
100%.
don't go on the tax roll.
Right, but the base.
Well, is there a way to calculate how much we lost on that?
There won't be.
You don't know what the.
We don't know what the improvement will be.
It's not really what you lost, it's what you don't get.
What you don't get, right.
Right, and that's on 100, 90, 80, 70, 60%. But you don't
Over
know
a
until the
period of 10
improvements
years,
are made.
right?
Yeah.
But like on Sutherland's and cases and all that, the USD and the college will get taxes for that, whereas the city and the county will not. Because they which is great for us, because it's gonna be close to $100,000 a year, just for those people.
Okay. This is an analysis a little bit of our tuition fees and how we compare to others in the state. The first category is the Ford County resident, and these numbers come from the annual report, data report that's submitted to the state. And this number is a little bit hard to calculate because some of the community colleges don't report it the same way. But I did the best we could. So if we look at what was our Ford County students and what they paid, so here's your total tuition fees, and then what the state average is for in-district students. So we're doing pretty good. I mean, we're pretty low compared to the state average there. When we look at the non-Kansas resident, and this is where I'm saying these two numbers are the same, and this goes, for some reason, on the state system, the state data book, they don't really break it down. And so, on this category, you can see, well, we're pretty close to what the state average is for our non-Kansas residents. For our international, we're quite a bit lower than the state average. And then for our online tuition fees, we're a little bit higher there. The next item is I believe the big thing is state corporations.
Can I ask you a question?
You know that band?
No.
You ought to know that one. Anybody know that band?
I'm a,
Steve, who said Steve Miller? I'll get you in a minute. Yes, sir.
on this, yeah, the Ford County resident and then the state average, is that the state average including all community colleges?
Yes, sir. Yeah, I added all the state community college. I did a
I mean,
spreadsheet.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
No, that answered my question.
What I did is I went out there on that data book and put in every state community college and then honestly did an average and then that's how I came up with those numbers.
And part of it is for us to be competitive with the fees we're getting for online, we need to work on that. Those need to be about the same as.
Yeah. More and more students, I think, would like to take online just for the convenience and just for their time, a lot of their working and self-paced. I know when I take continuing professional education, I like to do it. I don't like to go to conferences. I'd just rather do it at my leisure. Because a lot of times I work faster than other people do it in a meeting. And so.
Could I stop for one question about the online? How did we set that price?
Through Educated, we will bit.
Educan's $150 a credit hour, and DC3 is $135. And we haven't changed that in several years. So we might look at maybe reducing that.
I think that'd be great. Yeah. I think you'd be a lot more competitive. There's a lot of students. What they'll do is they'll take 12 hours at face to face, and then they'll take 3 hours in their in the residence halls or whatever.
Yes.
And then you're also we need to help our working adults. Those that can't come on campus.
So we will work on that.
So this is our state funding, and you'll notice that there's a tiered and a non-tiered. And Trustee Ramsar asked me to talk a little bit about tiered and non-tiered. The reason that they call this tiered is that in the technical programs, there are 6 tiers. And those tiers are based on different cost factors. It could be instructor costs. For example, in our nursing program, those instructors make more. It could be due to another factor is equipment cost. And so there may be a program, maybe like Lineman, that have 11. Must have not like the presentation. But they have, certain equipment costs. And so there are different levels of cost and instruction costs. And so they have these 6 tiers. And so the K-Board calculates the amount of, funding for each of those tiers and the programs associated with those tiers. And again, I'll use the nursing program. They're in tier 6, and they get the most funding per credit hour. It's $471. Now then, compare that to, I think the lowest tiered is tier 1, and I think it gets $228 per credit hour. Okay. And then compare that to the non-tiered, which is your general education courses, English, history, things like that. I provided a flow chart there for you. You can kind of tell how the criteria that K-Board uses to determine that. But the non-tiered course credit hour funding is $199. They just, it's a flat $199. They don't care whether it's English or history or whatever. It's just flat $199. And so, again, based on that, those credit hours, they come up with the funding. Now, then, and here's what I don't know. Probably it works this way. They will take how much funding that the legislature decides to have and say, okay, here's the pool of money. And all the colleges in the state say, okay, here's our credit hours, and then they proportion it out. Is that kind of how they do it here? And so, obviously, the bigger colleges will get a bigger share. They have more credit hours. And so, that's kind of the way that they do it. Anyway, the state legislature increased the funding this year. Now then, let me talk a little bit about this 80% property tax relief. There's been quite a bit of discussion about that and what this entails. This goes back, I guess, to a law back in 2001, or it's been a long time ago. And I guess it's been this long since there's been an increase in funding. There's different ways to interpret that statute, evidently, because I've been reading some different email that come across. But the way that it reads is if there is an increase in state funding, which there was this year, then you're supposed to reduce your tax levy, or the amount of taxes you receive, by 80% of what this legislature gave you. So I got to thinking about that, like, that doesn't seem fair. For example, if the state legislature cut our funding $125,000 in 2015, and now, 4 years later, they say, okay, we're going to give that back to you. Well, 80% of that is $100,000. They say, okay, we're going to give you that $125,000, but you've got to subtract the $100,000 from your tax levy. I'm going like, so we really only got $25,000. But there's different ways to read that law, and does it apply to the total tax levy, or does it apply to, and what's to prevent an institution from saying, okay, I see what you're doing there, so I'm going to increase my ad valorem rate a little bit higher to compensate for how much I'm having to give back. The law's it's really kind of strangely written. A lot of interpretation there, so I'm kind of waiting to see how and even the state, there's been some questions submitted to them like, okay, we're not sure how to do this and how we're supposed to fill out our forms to calculate the ad valorem rates. So we'll see how that works out.
I don't know rhyme or reason for some of this stuff.
So this is kind of the second leg. We had tuition and fees. We've got our state funding. The other funding is our
The Beatles. Thank you.
The Beatles, the taxman. Taxman cometh.
I've heard of them.
Yeah. Heard of that?
You've heard of them? Well, I'll give you one. You'll notice that in the previous, and here's a history. This is like almost a 2-year history there. And you can kind of see the different rates there. This is the rate that was estimated last year, 32.494. Okay. That was the estimated rate that you published. The actual rate that came in was 32.483. So that's the rate that I'm going to try to go by this year, which is actually a little bit of a reduction. And it will generate about a little over $300,000. And like I said at the beginning, the assessed value came in at about 2.99% increase over last year, and the average has been historically about 3%. So pretty close to the average. So if you look at your expenditures, personnel and benefits equal about 61.5%. Now this is actually down a little bit from last year. Last year's 62% of the budget, 62.5%. This number, 13.1 million. It's about $80,000 more than last year. So we were able to cut some positions and do some things, but we're still able to give raises, or propose raises. That's what we're thinking about, but not really have a big effect on our personnel benefits. And actually, the percentage of the whole budget actually down a little bit. That's good. And that's pretty close to, I would say maybe a little bit, maybe even below average for an organization to be around 61%.
Way below.
Yeah.
My last school was 77%.
And that's all those Texas A&M people. You'll note utilities, it'll be a little bit of an increase there, a 2.7% increase. Now, these numbers represent, again, percentage of the pie as a whole. Capital outlay, I'm going to try to increase that a little bit. Here's what I said, 1.3 million. That's going to go up a little bit. I'm going to try to use some of the capital outlay funds, which is a different fund. This is the general fund. But what we might do is use some of the capital outlay money here and some of the capital outlay funds fix up the old gym. We'll see how that works out. Travel and transportation, about 800,000. Insurance, Mary's going to talk to us a little bit about insurance a little bit. And then utilities. Utilities has gone up, and insurance, although it went up, the budget didn't because we over budgeted insurance last year. Which is good. Helps us out. Professional fees and consultants remained about the same.
What does that really entail?
Professional fees and consultants. Well, you know, a big chunk of that money is what we pay to Mr. Kurz. No.
Got a deal.
But there is a lot of attorney fees, professional fees for consultants, like for our Title IX. If we have speakers come and speak at like in service or different things, that's where a lot of that is. Now, some of those, for example, if the legal fees associated with Arizona, they are reimbursed. And that's when we've talked about the other sources, while we were in revenues. They have like $300,000 expenditure in legal fees. Well, we'll also recoup that from our insurance company. That's $2 million, and we're not. I think we're around 600,000 or 650. So I think we're doing okay there.
And Ryan, that would be where, for example, if you have a consultant who's helping us with a grant, that's where that money would come from, isn't it? Or is it?
Well, like the only consultant we're using now for any of our grants is Title V, but there's monies built into that grant to pay for that consulting fee, which the feds allow us to do.
Is it possible to break that down so that we could look at that? And
yes.
Is it possible also on travel and transportation to break that down between athletics, academics, administration, faculty travel, board
Are you
expenses?
taking notes for me?
I mean, I'd like to see on travel, for example, how much is the administration spending? How much is the board spending on travel? How much is that? And I imagine the majority of it's going to athletics, and then there's some going to academics too for travel. So
yeah, we could print that out by
to break that down. I'd like to look at it.
Yeah.
Well, you have a lot going, like recruiting.
Yeah, sure. I know.
And this also includes like transportation, for example, if we,
Buy vehicles?
well, that's going to really be over, no, it is. Yes, it is. It's going to be in here because that's part of the general fund, even though we're leasing those vehicles, it is included in the general fund. So part of that's leasing of our vehicles.
Well, that's something a whole bunch of.
Well, we bought at least 7 Malibus, a couple of Suburbans, and a couple of Turboprops. So, yeah, that was a significant portion. Let's see. Okay, so then we get into our debt service. You know, we have several areas of debt service. Revenue bonds to pay for our residence halls, Jackson, Beckford Hall, Sheldon. And the total of these for next year is going to be almost $1 million. And Jackson Hall, remember, was refinanced, but for the past 2 years, we've only been paying interest on that. So we've been kind of kicking the can down the road, okay? So this $185,000 is going to come up this year. You'll see that when we look at the auxiliary budgets in a few minutes. But so then you knew about the Junza Bar, we're upgrading that, and that'll be coming from our technology fund. Capital outlay funds, we get monies from the taxpayers, 2% mill per year. We have that authorization every 5 years from a resolution. And those funds can be used for construction, reconstruction, repair, remodeling, additions to furnishing and equipping, and a lot of other things, and maybe what we're thinking about. So it's really important to utilize your revenues and resources there to the maximum. Let me just go on to the next page.
Can we go back for 1 second, just to the expenditures by
Okay.
category?
Okay.
Because I understand Trustee Rackenborn wanting them itemized out, but when I'm looking at this and knowing that the television may not see all of this, we're looking at the whole budget. Personnel and benefits are 61.5% of that budget. And travel and transportation is 3.7%. So it's not like it's 85% of the budget is going for travel and transportation and things like that. The majority of our budget is going to maintenance, operations, supplies, personnel, and benefits. So I just wanted to make that understood.
Yeah, and let me mention this, and I'm not sure, and I'll have to go back and look. You know, we signed the contract with Service Management. And I can't remember if I put that in professional fees or down here in maintenance. I think I put it in maintenance, but I don't know for sure.
We saved $80,000 on that.
Yeah, we did. We saved quite a bit. And that's why, you know, you see your personnel benefits, well, yeah, those salaries aren't in there next year for our custodians.
That's our plus 80,000.
Pardon?
That's the plus 80,000.
Well, the 80,000, okay, so this year's budget was about 13,020,000, okay? So you take the custodial expense out, the salaries of them out, and then if you add back in the 3% raise that we're thinking about, that's how you come back up to the 13.1. So.
We've cut, I mean, staff-wise, we've cut down, you know, pretty significant numbers. And, you know, whether it be maintenance, or whether it be administration, whether it be staff, or others.
Okay, so here is the debt structure table that we like to look at a lot. And the top part here, capital outlay fund. This is the fund that we get the 5 mills, the 2 mills from. And we can use that for, again, buildings. And we're using that to pay off the student activity center. And it can be used to equip buildings. So we're going to move money from the general operating budget and move that up here so that we can utilize that money more efficiently in our general office. And that's what I'm talking about, utilizing the resources.
Are you using that to pay off the COPs then?
Yeah. It's because it's equipment. And equipping a building is a legitimate expense. And let's see, so those, and then the capital outlay for the gym wall, that's in there. Those will be paid off next year. Box payment for the gym wall and the parking lot there. Then we get into the general operating budget and the funds that we have there. You see those, the suburbans, there's where we have that. And again, that is in the general operating budget. The bus lease, that's another expense. Some other equipment in the student activity center. And then down here we have the residential halls. And again, you'll see from last year on Jackson, we went from 133,200, and now we go up to 318,200. So that's a big jump. Now, if I had a lot of money, had a lot of resources, I would like to donate, you know, try to make some, you know, improvements to the campus. Maybe kind of like this guy.
Fiddler on the Roof!
Yeah, so, you know, I think we're going to be able to, even if, since I don't have a lot of money, I still think that we can make some improvements to the old gym. Right now, we have no place for our intramurals, and we're going to try to fix that up, or we can do that. And also, community, you know, so that they can use that during the whole year, because it's, you know, during basketball season, the community kids have a hard time to use the basketball court. But if we had the old gym, then they could come in there and have a volleyball league or whatever they might do, indoor soccer. I don't know, what all did you do in there?
No, they did.
And a walking track.
Everything.
Walking track.
Part of it is it's attached, since it's attached to the fitness center, the walking track is part of the walking track.
But I think with what I'm thinking about, we can use some of the capital outlay funds, Fund 61. And if there's not enough there, then maybe come over into the general fund. But I think there's going to be enough money in the capital outlay fund.
What is the cost?
Well, the last estimate was about 300,000, as I recall. So that's why you'll see the capital outlay fund budget is going up this year. I don't know. I would have liked to spend more this year, but the budgeting authority that you did last year, we only did like 761,000 or something like that, and you can't exceed your budget authority. But next year, we'll include that money because it's out there, you've got it, you just didn't budget it.
Is there any money put aside for any of the maintenance that was recommended 10 years ago on the buildings?
For these buildings or all buildings in general?
In general.
Well, and that's where you can use,
Like you're redoing the parking lot, which is
well, and
very big
you
need.
can do that there as well as in your general operating account as well. And there's money in the general operating budget to for capital expenditures as well. So you've got two piles of money, capital expenditures. In the general operating fund, you've got capital outlay, and then you've got capital outlay that's Fund 61. The difference being the money's in the general fund. We can use those for any expenditure, capital expenditure, sidewalks or anything, okay? The money over in Fund 61, which is which you get your 2 mills from, you can only use that on buildings. And so maintenance and things like that, re-roofing and things. But our roofs are in pretty good shape.
Well, you've probably seen the report that the architects did and recommended $10 million worth of repairs and maintenance 10 years ago. Are we setting any money aside to address those?
And we will do that as well.
How much?
Well, you don't want to spend everything you got, obviously, because if you have a boiler or something like that, blow up on you, then you got to make sure you have some in reserve. You've got a total, I think there's going to be a total of $1.2 million in the capital outlay for next year. We might budget all that, doesn't mean we'll spend it all, okay? Because we do want to save some, like you say, for deferred maintenance.
What do you keep in your contingency fund? How much?
Well, and that's another thing. Over in the general operating budget, I always keep contingency. We didn't have that budgeted this year. Well, not until I got here. And then I started budgeting a couple $100,000. I think I've got about $125,000 in there right now.
Is there a percent you're supposed to keep?
That depends on your institution. Like I said, prior to me arriving, I did not see where we had budgeted for contingency.
We built a lot of new things. We did maintain some of the old things.
You about have to have a contingency fund on it.
Well,
Oh, yeah.
School
Someone goes out or
college or whatever.
Well, you never know what might happen. Another thing about the contingency fund is if for some reason your spring enrollment drops significantly. Now, normally spring will follow fall, but if for something, or if the state comes in, I've had this happen, they come in mid-year and say, oh, well, it's been a tough economic year, we're gonna cut your appropriations. Well, there's where you dip in your contingency fund that so I don't anticipate that this year. I think the economic conditions are pretty good. So.
we've been in 2 states that did that.
Yeah, I did it. Florida did a 5% cut mid-year, which is basically a 10% cut.
We did a financial agency.
Yeah. So here's the auxiliary enterprise fund. And it's going to be about $3 million this year. And again, a lot of that's the $185,000 to fund the principal on the refinance of debt. Another thing is that we're going to budget our book sale revenue, which we have not been doing. So we're going to budget that, so that makes that go up a little bit on the revenue side. You'll notice that we're balanced except for that principal payment. Now, we went up on our students, the residential hall rates, but in order to fully fund that, we would have had to gone up over $500 more. If you had 350 students, we'd have to go up $500 more per student. And we'll try to phase it in gradually over the next 2 years, so we won't have to do that all at once, because that's a pretty big hit for our students in the residential hall. It helped that we renegotiated our food contract. Hopefully, it won't be as high. So that number may actually go down, so we won't have as much to have to transfer from here to here. So that's kind of the budget. It continues to provide a model for efficient funding and effective services. We want to continue to maintain a conducive learning environment. kind of got all the pieces together, and so, if anybody says, well, we want to add this or do that, this is my final thought on that.
Dr. Forgey? Oh, I'm sorry.
What would it take? What would it take for you to feel secure? More.
So, yeah, it would take more money or more enrollment to make me a little bit more secure. That was from the movie All the Money in the World about J. Paul Getty.
Yes, going back to the Board of Regents proposed funding distribution, this is on the technical side, right? I mean, if you go back. Yeah.
Okay.
My question is, like Allen County, which I've always thought was much smaller than Dodge, but maybe not, but I noticed that some of them, like on the post-secondary tiered, they run about the same as we do, as opposed to the amount of money that we bring in. But then like on Allen County, they go from 1.3 million, or 1.3 million on their 2020 base, the 3.5 million, which is slightly higher than what they had last year of 3.5. What are they and Highland is twice as much as their non-tiered is twice as much as that.
I see what you're saying. So
Yeah,
their non-tiered programs are twice as much as
yeah.
tiered. Yeah.
What are they? Do you know what they're doing that we're not?
Well, see, now remember, non-tiered are your general education classes.
Right.
And not knowing Allen County as far as their population, some colleges are reaching out to students for dual credit or concurrent enrollment in the English classes and things like that. They could be doing that. I think there's a lot of opportunity there for those type of classes within our area. So it could be that they're doing that at some of those other colleges. But
they may have a robust online program too.
Yeah,
what a lot of schools, interestingly enough, they may be in a small county, but what they'll do is they'll be a larger city or larger community, and they'll go to that and offer programs and classes, and that's how they grow that. That's how most schools are growing and doing well. And so, I know for a fact that we
Or international students.
our international students. I mean, look at look what Fort Hays is doing.
Yeah.
That's pretty innovative. Going to China. Most of their money comes from China. So
participation awards.
And a question, I know we were talking about.
Sorry.
Do you have something else?
Nope.
Oh, on the
Back to the slides.
on the contingency funds for maintenance, where is the $33 million hickey that we might be having? Is that figured in this in any way, shape, or form?
Are you talking about Arizona?
Yeah.
No, it's not.
All right. What happens if? We have no plan to deal with that.
I had one other another movie clip that I used last year at Garden that I didn't need this year, and there was a train going off the tracks and we just crashed. That would probably be what we'd have.
Okay.
but he will tell you the Garden's budget was.
Oh yeah, they were planning on like 500 in their residential halls to pay for their residential housing. They only had 300, and so they were in really bad shape. And I think they ended up having to sell off some land. Now I don't think we had to. We did it because we wanted to, but I think they were having to do it because of financial situations. And I think they were looking at some steep legal issues.
Still are.
Anyway, that's all I got. So
Thank you.
Sorry it took so long.
Thank you, Dr. Forgey. No other questions for Dr. Forgey on the budget. We'll move into our board action items.
She had to wait so long.
First on our board action items is 11A, 2019-2020 Comprehensive Insurance Group. Dr. Forgey, would you like to present that, sir?
Well, I've got Mary Trent here. This is our annual insurance. And Mary she peeked her head in the door when we met. She kind of like, you ready for some bad? You want the bad news or the good news? Is that how you started off? Yeah, or something like that. And so she started presenting, and I said, well, that's not as bad as I anticipated. So anyway, I'll let Mary, if she wants to, if you have any questions for her, but our insurance is going to go up a little bit, almost 22%. But the rates that I've seen some of our other colleges was close to, what, 25, 30?
There were some that went up in excess of 50%.
Okay, so.
On the property aspect of things.
So, Dr. Forgey, I don't know what you gave the trustees, so.
I gave them a spreadsheet that you had that has all the premium costs. So they have this. So I'll just stand here with her.
Okay.
And so you can see the premiums that we had last year from the different carriers and the rates of increases in some cases. In some cases there were not any increases. But for the most part it went up overall. And the proposal for this year, and again we have this budgeted. It's actually, again, like I said, over budgeted last year, so that was a good thing. So when I moved it over and had an increase this year, actually, I was okay, you know, so I kind of left that in there. So, the proposal is to go with the fee insurance group for $255,276. What was it last year, do you remember? It was 22% less.
The bottom line, well, overall, it was actually 18%. We saw a reduction this year in the work comp. Our work comp premium went down. Our property premium went up. And as Dr. Forgey said, the college participates in a purchasing group, Midwest Higher Education Coalition. They only insure colleges and community colleges, that kind of thing. They've been very, very economical for a long time, but they moved into Kansas 5 or 6 or 7 years ago, and they've continued to move, and they've learned what hail is.
You said that was the major reason for the increase?
Yes, because previously the program provided you with a $25,000 deductible for any peril. They advised us early May that we would be seeing that deductible go up, that we would see a wind and hail deductible, which is not uncommon anymore, and that we would be seeing a water damage deductible. And when they talk about water damage, we're not talking about flood, we're talking about the shower got left on in the dorm. That you broke a water pipe, we blew up a boiler, a water claim of that nature. So the initial thing that came back to us was that we were going to be looking at a $300,000 wind and hail deductible and a $100,000 water deductible. And then there was going to be a co-insurance clause that applied to a claim, and we were like, whoa, we can't even make this work, because every day we buy down wind and hail deductibles. There's London markets that sell us coverage that insure the difference between what the deductible is and what you want it to be. But when you've got all these other unique particles in there, it's very hard to do. So they backed up, they settled at $300,000 on the wind and hail, $100,000 on the water damage. Included in the prices that Dr. Forgey has is the premium to buy down that $300,000 wind and hail deductible to $25,000. Now, you could say, Mary, let's look at a $50,000 deductible, or let's look at $100,000. And we can certainly get some other quotes if you want to do that. In the scheme of things, I don't see that from an economic standpoint that it's a good choice, but I can certainly do that for you if you'd like to.
Mary, can you, off the top of your head, remember what our claim was for the hills from a couple years ago that when we
Just a smidge over $1 million.
I mean, just putting in perspective of what the deductible is.
We had a $1 million $1 million wind and hail claim. We had a boiler claim that we froze something up. $250,000. Then we had the shower that was left on in the residential dorm, and it was in the $80,000 range. And so we're not unique. We have the same kind of things happen that other colleges have happen. And the insurance company they were like, we have no comfort level here. So that's why they're pushing things up. I was relieved when Dr. Forgey told me he had the money because I've been doing this a long time and I can't remember the last time I went out and said, oh, by the way, your property rates went up 20%. But it is what it is. Most of the colleges in Kansas are insured with part of Midwest Higher Education Coalition. We have 8 that are in the group that we work with. Some of those saw increases in excess of 50%. So while 20 sounds terrible, 50 sounds worse. We do feel like we're starting to see the insurance market tighten up a little bit. We've been in about 10 years of a flat or maybe a soft market where we saw things go down. I think we're headed towards it tightening up. We may see some differences again next year. Hopefully nothing like this. Next year will be, we currently have a 3-year policy with Cincinnati that insures the general liability, the vehicles, crime, that kind of thing. It was a 3-year annual installment that was guaranteed. Next year will be at the end of that 3 years. So we may see some fluctuation there too, but I think that overall, like I said, it's what was available. There was many agents across the state that were out looking. We've talked to every insurance company there is. Allen County was very generous. They came back and said that they had gotten in MHEC and then they had gotten out. They shared who their insurance carrier was. We called them and they were like, whoa, whoa, whoa. You have 3 times the property that Allen County has. You're in the middle of Kansas. We appreciate you thinking about us, but no. And that's pretty much what all the insurance carriers said.
Well, without a large contingency fund, then insurance is the only real option we have of getting the insurance and not having a large deductible.
Well, and Dr. Forgey was absolutely right. The roofs are in excellent shape. They were installed in between May and the end of the year of 2016. And while we've seen a little bit of hail over the last couple of years, not enough to really impair that. If we get softball-sized hail, all the bets are off. But basically, the proposal that we've brought to you leaves you with the same economic responsibility that you had last year. Questions?
You answered the other one I had, Mary, which is, what's it gonna go up next year? Because we know these are incremental things sometimes, so.
We just, honestly, I was just shocked. I mean, I've seen the market turn and seen what it would do, but for this one little niche to have taken this kind of turn, they tried to find 2 new reinsurance carriers and couldn't find anybody that would play because they just couldn't make the numbers work. Could not make the financial aspect of it work.
Dr. Forgey, would you like to state the resolution before us?
The motion
Yes.
is recommended that the trustees accept the proposal from P Insurance Group for $255,276.
I so move.
Motion.
Second.
Second. Further questions?
I just have one point to make, although I'm happy to see some things go down. Actually, workers' compensation rates are going down because the legislature has chosen to burden the worker with the cost of profits, and their benefits are going down. And these are unskilled workers that depend on their backs and their hands to make a living. And I hope that the legislature will see the fallacy in that and return decent compensation to the workers that give us our hamburger and our cars. Other than that, no further discussion.
Any further questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, thank you, Maya. All opposed, same sign. Thank you, Dr. Forgey. Next item, sir, is yours as well.
It is, and Mary kind of mentioned this, the workers' compensation fee insurance. It actually went down almost 4%. And we are recommending that we accept the proposal from Fee Insurance Group for $52,866 with accident fund for Kansas.
I would move to accept that recommendation.
Motion, Trustee Moore.
I'll second.
Second, Trustee Ramshaw. Any further questions, discussions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Oh, sorry, Maya, thank you. That passes, thank you.
Thank you.
We hope to hear greater news. Next item on item C is our beverage agreement with Heartland Coca-Cola Bottling. Dr. Forgey?
Yes, last month the board approved the bid from Coca-Cola. This is the contract with them for that proposal.
Well, we've already voted for it. I have a question, and my question is Variety Vending going to be filling the machines? Are they a subcontractor for Heartland? Is that what they are?
That's my understanding.
Yes. Okay. They're not the ones who are doing Pepsi, are they?
I don't believe so.
Because if they are, then
But we're in the same position that we were in before.
yeah, that's the
because-
same thing.
Yeah, but they're not. And, I mean, they're not the same company that you did.
That was filling the machines.
Matter of fact, Pepsi started pulling the machines out already, which kind of left us high and dry for this coming weekend, which I gave them, I said, until July the 6th, because I knew that we had students coming in transition period. But they went ahead, took their bull in the hump.
Call Coke and tell them bring them on.
Well, we arranged with Coke to come, they're going to come next Tuesday. Hindsight, armchair quarterbacking, and I may try to do this the next time we go out for bid and maybe extend the Coke contract for 3 or 4 months and have this transition period in December when there's nobody here right after fall break.
Well, my question is, we don't really need a motion on this, do we? Because we approved it.
You approved with the proposal, but
Clarification, Glenn?
Yeah, you approved the bid. This is the actual contract here.
Okay.
And they have already made we looked at it, we had some requested changes, and they've made the changes, so this contract has those changes.
All right.
So I'm,
Motion, Trustee Hampton.
Second.
Second, Trustee Moore. Further discussion or questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Maya, I'm sorry I cut you off again. Was that a yay vote or nay vote?
It's an aye, it's an aye vote.
Thank you. Moving into our next item, the resolution 2019-13.
Yes, I don't remember if it was Larry or Kevin that approached me about the possibility of refinancing the Jackson Hall issue, but we looked at that. They sent me some numbers. We can save over $300,000. Trustee Corbalek, yesterday you asked if the length of the debt was going to be the same. It actually will be 1 year less. So we will pay it off 1 year earlier.
Great.
We'll pay it off 1 year earlier.
That's great.
But the over the period of the next I think it's like 20 years, maybe it's 18. We'll be saving about a little over $300,000. That's reflected on page 4 of the information that Ransom sent, and it's highlighted in yellow. We'll be saving $314,500. Since the bond market has continued to go down, I asked Larry, I think it was, to maybe look at next year, or not next year, the possibility of looking at some of our other debt instruments. And the one we looked at is not eligible until next year. I guess they can answer that question.
Yeah, it's like a year or two, so we'll look at it again as it becomes closer to the call date. And assuming rates are still favorable, we may refinance that as well.
What interest rate were we paying on this Jackson Hall?
Yeah, we have it on page 2, I think is page 1 has the outstanding debt. Interest rates range from 2.5% up to 4%. Right now, we're estimating current market rates might be a little under 2% to a little over 3% on the long end to achieve those savings.
We're paying up to 4%?
That's the end of the debt.
At the end of it, yeah.
And sir, do you feel this is optimal time to do this versus
Yeah, rates are
6-month
becoming-
window from now? I mean, I think
Right.
rates are where they're going to be.
Yeah, rates have been trending downward for 6 months, and they're really looking good now, so I think it's a good time. And as he mentioned, there's a resolution there for 40 that would authorize us as financial advisor and Gilmore and Bell, Jim Callan is the bond counsel, to solicit bids. And then we come back here next month with bids from underwriters, and then the best bid can be approved, and hopefully even more than $300,000 in savings.
The only thing I don't like about this, and this is my fault for not catching it, is we refer to this as dormitory instead of residential hall. Residential housing. Dormitory is kind of an old term.
We took the name from the
60s.
Yeah.
document from several years ago.
Well, I noticed it says refinancing of student union and dormitory.
I think it's just Jackson Hall.
That's what I thought. I read just Jackson Hall. Then I read student union. I thought, really, it's not
It
part
was a
of it.
2013 system revenue bond. It has on the documents student union and dormitory, so I guess we can check the details of those documents.
You might, because it appears to be, from everything I've seen and read, it appears to be the revenues from the residential housing on Jackson Hall are paid for
Are
this
the
primary source.
Any further questions from the board?
Make a motion to approve.
Motion.
Second.
Any further questions, discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Thank you. Next, item E is our board meeting calendar. Carla, would you like to tell us about that?
Well, I think in the consideration sheet, it outlined the changes. Otherwise, we go per board policy 218. The only changes were, of course, the holidays. And then the one in October is due to the ACCT conference. We probably could hold it on the 22nd, but that would mean getting the board meeting out earlier, so we did with the 29th.
I have a question, Carla. On the Tuesday, July 28th, the annual meeting, is that supposed to be in January? The definition, Lynn?
I think we changed it to January
That's when we
for
changed it.
elections and stuff, yes. I think so.
Because of the change in election dates, right?
So we need to move that annual meeting component to the January meeting.
I think that, yeah, I think that's okay.
Good.
Any further questions, comments?
There really isn't much debatable about it. I move we accept it.
Good job, first Gene. I agree. Any second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All opposed, same sign. Next item, Bev, the Exacq Technologies Hybrid Network Video Recorder.
Okay, we know that we've made campus security and safety a priority for about the last 2 years, especially life safety. We've added and upgraded security cameras. So what happened is that our equipment that records and monitors got overloaded, and it was also aged, and we need to replace it to keep up with that. So we put out a bid. We had a pretty good review committee. It was made up of members of the IT team, Paul Johnson, and Skylar Callahan, that has quite a few years of experience with the security camera system, and then also Mike Webster oversaw it, and then Dr. Forgey. We sent out, they sent out 38 bid to vendors and responded from 11. I thought that was a pretty good response. There was quite a range on some of the costs, and the recommendation is for the lowest one, which is North American Video Company, and it's $12,181. We ask that you would approve this. That way we will have the memory storage capability that we need, and it will keep up for several years, I think at least, with the current camera system, and then if we also add some. So it's an upgrade to modern technology. The old one goes down quite a bit. They have to reboot it, and so while we have funds that are available to upgrade anything with life safety, we thought it was a good time to do it.
Good. Thank you.
I move acceptance.
Motion.
I'll second it.
Second. Any discussion or questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All opposed, same sign. Thank you. Next, our Kansas Board of Cosmetology finds amendment to the Dodge City Community College Cosmetology Student Handbook.
Was that a mouthful?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Dave
Good
Osmus?
Thank you. Good evening, Dr. Nolte, Board of Trustees. As I had mentioned in the work session yesterday afternoon, this is something that has actually been on the books for some time, but the Kansas Board of Cosmetology, has informed us that this is something they are going to be stringently enforcing. So that's why we are requesting the amendment be made to the student handbook to add this policy. One, show Kansas Board of Cosmetology that we're going to be abiding by the directive, and then two, it shows who's responsible. And this is directly related to student stations. Unsanitary or uncleanliness, if that's a word, excuse me. And one of the examples they gave yesterday, and there's a few here spelled out, obviously, disinfections, what was some of these other items not discarded, nail duster. One of the other examples would be like hair in a comb that wasn't cleaned down. There's other examples that can be given, but that's the reasons why we're asking for the amendment. They're going to start enforcing this policy, and so want to protect the institution and to show who's responsible for the fee. We haven't had any, I will say we haven't had any problems in the past. Cos Board of Cosmetology does, yeah, right, Glenn, exactly. Does come in, they do evaluate. It can be scheduled or unscheduled, so we have a very good record with them. But if something was ever to come about, we have this in place.
Have you had any concerns from the students?
The director, Julie, she would have joined me this evening or joined us this evening, but they're at a training out of state, so sharpen up some skills to bring back to the students.
No pun intended.
Oh, well, yeah, exactly, right. Fair enough. This has been shared with the students. It will be shared with incoming students, and they will be asked to sign. I believe that was in the recommendation. You'll have to forgive me. And they will be given an overview of the policy, what the consequences might be for unsanitary stations, and they'll be asked to sign off on that. But the students that we presently have, to my understanding, there hasn't been any questions or concerns, and nothing has been directed or brought to me as of yet. So
I'm kind of surprised we haven't had this issue before.
There's some
It
healthy
seems to
fun.
me it's late coming, but we at least have it.
yeah, yes, thank you.
Those are some pretty healthy finds.
Yeah, they are definitely digging in, it seems like. So obviously, there must be some things going on around the state, obviously, that they're, I guess, had enough of, for lack of a better way to say it, and so they're gonna start really digging in and holding people accountable, which isn't a bad
It's a good
thing, and it'll set an expectation of professionalism, which they'll be asked to carry with them as they move into the workforce, so.
It's probably for the non, for-profit institutions that are, that's what's causing this thing to happen.
Motion to accept.
Motion?
Here.
I'll second.
Second. Motion second, any further discussion? I have one question, Glenn. On the separation between the, like, what the amendment is, I understand, but when looking at the list of fines, there's also fines listed separately that would be lack of instructor on the floor, unsupervised students. How that's worded in there, does that need to be better delineated to clarify that, because that's an institutional fine, not a student-based fine.
That would be related to the institution or our very own instructors, absolutely.
Yeah. You understand what I'm confused? It's on the next page. Those down. Right there. Right. Because I'm trying to read it, and I'm sure it's explained there, but, or maybe I'm just overthinking it, and or somebody else has a better explanation. I just want to make sure, obviously, we can't. I don't want to see those fines potentially get confused or passed on that the student would possibly think that if they don't have their instructor on the floor.
Yeah, right, absolutely, yeah, so, you're exactly right, I concur with what you're saying. I guess what we were trying to clarify is that at this point in time, there are certain fees that could be assessed to the student that weren't there prior.
Sure.
If that is a clear, if that's a little better understanding. Because, this will be, because these.
It doesn't clearly say that, does it? I mean, it doesn't differentiate between the student, what's within the student's control and what's not within the student's control, especially with regard to unsupervised students.
Although the student signs, the agreement the student signs pretty well spells out the specific violation.
I agree. The student section does spell that out. The addendum that they're going to sign spells that out. I just felt like this piece of it is a little, fuzzy math.
I can get with Julie, we can separate that out or try to clarify that a little bit.
Just to make things clear.
Better.
Obviously, it's something we hope that never becomes an issue, but we just would hate to be in that situation.
Yes, absolutely.
As a parent reading this, I guess for my child, I'd be a little bit like, well, it's their fault if they don't have an instructor.
Yeah, no,
Where are
you're
they
right.
going to
Those
make
do
you pay
apply
now?
to us as an
And these are healthy clients for somebody that.
I'll get with our director and we can.
Except the ones that are listed, as Dr. Forgey said, the ones that are listed in the amendment that they signed.
Yeah, these will be the ones that they're signing on, only for the student, Yeah, they're.
The other
ones that speak directly to the student stations, and then it's got listed out what they can be fined for. That's what they'll be signing, not.
And I took it that the second and the third page, that's something that that's just all the different fines that are available by the board for different things. Yeah. So you have the ones with the students.
Mm-hmm. No, I think it's fine the way it's listed, but maybe an amendment again in a coming meeting you could add in to separate that out, or better explain that in the handbook, because it is the handbook.
Okay, yeah, we can add some language.
I don't think it changes what we are voting on in regards to that amendment tonight. I feel it's
With all respect, Dr. Presley, would it be possible to accept this handbook contingent upon a revision that would clarify who pays which fines?
I'm fine with that.
And
Make that as a friendly amendment to the motion.
And we can bring that back next month.
That works, yes.
Okay, very good. Are we all clear on that? Any motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Thank you. That completes our board action items. We have no unfinished business for the night and no new business for the night, bringing us to our consent agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I move approval.
Motion, Trustee Ham. Second, Trustee Malone. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Thank you. And that brings us to Mr. Curbs' time of the night to earn his money that we saw up there earlier.
My portion.
Yeah, you're part of that. 600 is, so that's 600 something. The executive session, we have one to go into.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I recommend the board recess into executive session to discuss due process proceedings related to non-renewal of teacher contracts pursuant to the attorney-client privilege exception to the Kansas Open Meetings Act, KSA 75-4319B2. The open meeting to resume in this location at 7:45 p.m. In addition to the trustees, the president, Human Resources Director Oshleigwager, the college attorney, Vice President Holwerda, and Vice President Forgey should be included in the executive session.
Hearing the recommendation, is there a motion for executive session?
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Thank you. All opposed? Thank you. We'll resume at 7:45. Welcome everybody back from our executive session. We do need to extend our executive session for some additional time.
Mr. Chairman, I recommend the board recess into executive session to discuss due process proceedings related to non-renewal of teacher contracts pursuant to the attorney-client privilege exception to the Kansas Open Meetings Act, KSA 75-4319B2. The open meeting to resume in this location at 8 p.m. In addition to the trustees, the president, Human Resources Director Oshweger, the college attorney, Vice President Holwerda, Vice President Forgey should be included in the executive session.
I would move to accept the recommendation of Mr. Curbs.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
And we'll be recessed until 8 o'clock. We're back in session after our last executive session for the night. There was no action to be taken after that executive session. There's no other items up for discussion for the board, and I will accept the motion to adjourn our meeting.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye, Maya.
Have a good night, Maya.